Okay, guys, just click this here. All right, good. So I just a quick coach call today, and what I wanted to discuss today, I'm getting a lot of questions or comments, observations really from some of the people just kind of starting out or in the first month of the program about feeling like there's a lot of repetition and or overlap when doing your wins, your learn your language, or your journaling in general, which is a great observation. So start to notice what is coming up repeatedly. That's part of what you want to be doing. So there's a lot of Paul's got some great videos on wins and learn your language that comes with instruction when you do open it up. So you have some basics. I've done one of our coaching calls specifically was about, kind of working through wins and learn your language. But as you're working through that and you start to see there's some repetition likely for a reason. So want you guys to look at what is coming up all the time and why do you think it's coming up all the time. If you're feeling like the exercise itself is repetitious, then that's great because what it is a daily habit and it needs to be repeated. Do you need to get on there and be like, oh, I woke up today? That's my win. No, that's not what the exercise is to get up and just say that every day. It is to sit for a second and to reflect on what went well this day. And maybe it is that. Maybe you're working on, getting out of bed. Maybe you're working at getting out of bed at a certain time. And so if you hit that and that's a win, that's great. And that's what you want to stop and think about. Okay. But it doesn't want to be like, oh, whatever, I did this great today. I got out of bed, I woke up, I did that. You want to just stop and think and be reflective about what is actually causing you a little bit of happiness, right? Like, what did you do well that you feel proud about, right? So sometimes we think pride or being proud is, people look like, like, oh, egotistical or narcissistic. No, what made you feel good about something that you did is what we're looking for. So part of the wins is reprogramming how your brain works. We, as a survival mechanism, human beings are designed to focus in on the negative, what goes wrong, so that we know when we see it again, that we know how to manage it better. And what winds up happening is your brain constantly goes through that negative environment, that negative situation, so it can play out like all different scenarios and come up with one where you're going to survive. But in that, it becomes very negative. And when that loop gets reinforced and we use it and we default to it and we just let that negative voice take over, it has some absolute remodeling effects on your brain. Conversely, when you do your wins, and this is all part, like when they're in your instruction, we talk about that in Paul's video as well, some of the remodeling that goes along with your wins, looking at things from a different perspective, a more positive perspective, and how that impacts your day and your perspective. And then when you start to learn your language, and if this is what some of you were talking about in the repetition, like, yeah, what words are coming up? What sentences are coming up? What does that sound like to you when you take it out of context? And sometimes to me, that's the most interesting thing because in context, when it's in my head, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's a normal part of the story that I'm telling myself. But when you take it out of context or write it down and look at it, what does that look like to you? And if somebody else said that, like, what would you think? And so if some of you are talking about like that's the repetitive nature, I just want us to focus in a little bit on that. Especially here in the beginning when people are like, oh, I don't understand. Like I've done the same exercise, the same thing. I don't really understand. And um, and Paul and I will read them, see that you've done them, but we're not going to give feedback because it's a little bit we wouldn't really give feedback on your wins unless we start to see a pattern. And then weeks later, we might start to say, like, hey, we're observing this. Okay. So don't look for, you've entered something in and for us to be like, oh, we see that you entered your wins and it looks like you did this. But that is not part of what we're doing. So think about that also as you're doing that. We're not going to come to you after reading all of your stuff and let you know what we think. We want you to think and we want you to work it out. Okay. So let's just keep going and on those wins, to learn your language and then just making sure that the conversation about what you're writing down is happening with you. So even though Paul and I are whoever your coach is reviewing that information as it comes in. We see it, and some of you I've shown this week how we see the information when it comes in. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to comment on that information. Sometimes we will, but other times we want you to be the one that's reviewing that information. Okay. All right. So let's see if we can get that done this week. Just, and then it also, if you, I have a journal that I write. So if you are more comfortable writing in the journal, that's fine. I know some of you are. Just again, let me know or let Paul know, depending on who your assigned coach is, so that we know, like, oh, they're not putting it in here, but I can remember to check in with them. Or sometimes I've had people take a picture of their handwritten journal and text it to me or upload it. So we can do that as well. All right. So let's work on some repetition. Get the reps in, right? Get the reps in this week, and look forward to some of our new people starting up. It's very exciting, and some of you mid-program are doing some great work getting going. So good job, everybody. Happy Thursday, and let me know if you've got any questions after you see this. But again, there's, in addition to what I've just said here, a previous mindset coach call from me about wins and learn your language. Paul has done one as well. And then obviously the information that comes with that exercise. All right, guys, have a great day.